Good morning on this beautiful Saturday morning. I would like to welcome you to my BMC Business 383 business presentation, business model canvas presentation. By way of introduction, let's get this working. By way of introduction, the purpose of this presentation is to present this business idea in a way that will help understand the need for these products and see the potential success and growth of this business. The business I would like to start is an efficient geothermic powered greenhouse where we grow and produce vine ripened tomatoes and cucumbers and sell them locally to consumers, and also supply grocery stores and restaurants in the area. The greenhouse will be located in the town of Blanding, Utah, which is in San Juan County. San Juan County is located in the southeastern corner of Utah. It is a very rural and very remote area. And all the produce sold here in the stores is shipped from many, many miles away. So our story is that we would like to produce tomatoes and cucumbers locally because there is nothing produced locally in at least a 200-mile radius. And we feel that consumers will prefer a locally grown product that is tasty and nutritious compared to the shelf-ripened product that you find in the grocery stores and restaurants. As I said, this shipped from many miles away. So in this presentation, we will be discussing the business model canvas, which is, here's an example of it, which has 9 boxes of different aspects of a business. And this business model canvas is designed to help take a business idea from an idea to something that you can visualize. Each of these boxes part of a business, and as you fill out these basic assumptions in each box, it helps us to focus on each aspect and then develop helps us focus on each aspect to develop, and so that you can start up a business better than you could with a traditional type of business plan. For the remainder of this presentation, I will be talking about each one of these 9 boxes in more detail. One of the first things that I wanted to do is to formulate a value proposition statement. Because I have identified 3 different customer segments, which we'll talk about later, I prepared a value statement for each customer segment. Now, in this presentation, I'll be referring to each customer segment, but mostly focusing on the main customer segment, which is the local residents. And as a local resident myself, I can relate to my fellow citizens and understand some of their pains and how produce like ours will reward them with gains. So here's the value proposition statement. To satisfy your hunger with tasty, nutritious, vine-ripened tomatoes and cucumbers year-round and other desirable produce and supplies. I also have one for the grocery stores. High-quality variety of locally produced tomatoes and cucumbers sold in an attractive display case. Restaurants. High-quality variety of locally produced tomatoes and cucumbers delivered when you need them. So these will address the pains and gains of our customers. There isn't a product like it, even though you can buy a tomato at the store and a cucumber at the store. If you have ever compared the two, have you grown a nice tomato right out of your garden and eaten it versus going to the grocery store and getting a tomato there, they're just different. So the gains are that it will provide a tasty, nutritious product for the consumer. And I had a question. It's no more nutritious than the product you have in the store, but that's not true according to what I have found. Tomatoes have significantly more lipocene and B carotene content than those ripened off of the vine. So that brings us to our product, and it's a simple product. The minimum value product is a vine ripened tomato and cucumber. Now, as we have started through the process of examining this business and going through it, I can already see possible variations and changes or adaptations. Like, for example, having a variety of tomatoes, because there is a wide variety of tomatoes and cucumbers. And this will also distinguish our products from that you find in the store, which usually you just find a couple of different variations, different varieties of tomatoes and cucumbers. So, but given our MVP, I can already see other possibilities, and I can see that we could easily pivot toward either additions to our product offering or, if need be, we can do other product offerings. As in any business, we need to understand that the market that we need to understand the market that we will be servicing. A little research into the population and demographics give us a good idea of the market size. So the statistics that I found show that there's probably, in the area that we're looking at, there's about 11,500 people. There's actually more than that, but I think that is in towns with grocery stores and restaurants. There's about 4,500 households in this area, total available market. And this area is not serviced by competitors of vine ripened tomatoes and cucumbers. According to my assumptions, though, the served available market is approximately 25% of the TAM, or 2,500 people and 1,000 households. So the geography of the area, as I mentioned before, we're in San Juan County, southeastern Utah, but the area that we can target, that we're targeting right away, is San Juan and Grand counties in southeastern Utah. So that's Blanding, Monticello, and Moab. There's other small communities like Bluff and Mexican Hat, Monument Valley. And there's also other areas within that range, like Cortez and Durango and Farmington, New Mexico, where there's a lot more people, but that'll be down for review down the road. But there's a lot of other people that live within that range too, that live on the reservation. They don't live in communities. They have scattered homes across the Navajo reservation. And so on the next map, I'll explain that so you can visualize a little better. So here is the area. If you can zoom out, this would be southeastern Utah, and Blanding is in the center of this area with Moab and Monument Valley on the outskirts. It's a very rural and remote areas I talked about earlier. However, there's a lot of tourists that come here because we have several national parks within this area and national monuments in Monument Valley. And so we get a lot of visitors as I go to the grocery stores and restaurants. there is an enormous amount of tourists that come through this area, particularly through Moab. So, as I mentioned earlier, we have customer segments. So let's take a closer look at these customer segments. The customer segment 1 is the local residents. And so I kind of made a customer archetype of the local residents that may shop, may buy our product. And I called this Molly Mom, who is married with children or grandchildren. Income range would be from 30,000 to 100,000. And a percentage of these people will be early evangelists. Early evangelists are those people that are early adopters of the product. They will buy them as soon as they know about them. They don't have to be coerced or prompted or prodded. And so I know that there will be a certain amount of these people will be early evangelists. The other segments are the grocery stores and the restaurants. Archetype 2 is the grocery stores. I picked one as kind of the archetype, and that is the Grayson General Store, who is owned by a local businessman, married with family, loves customer service. And I believe a store like this would be an early evangelist who would welcome our product, because I've seen him do that with other products as well. Archetype 3 will be representing the restaurant customer segment, and I chose Yak's Cafe, which is also another company that I thought would be an early evangelist that would adopt our product right away. And this is owned by a female business person, loves cooking, loves people, loves customer service. So I use these as the archetypes. There are let's see. So actually, I've been thinking about another customer segment possible. That is food distributors. I don't have it on this presentation, but we have a food distributor within our area that doesn't necessarily distribute food to Blanding Monticello, but they service food to the stores and trading posts across the reservation. And that might be another possible customer segment. So, and with, I guess, indirect selling to customers. So we have an empathy map as well here, and I can't hardly read it from here. It's so small. But an empathy map is what does the customer see? Oh, well, let's see. I have to look closely. What do they think and feel? What do they see? What do they hear? And what do they say and do? So this kind of gives an idea of what this archetype 1 would think and feel and say and do and hear. And I think that all this applies to our product. Okay. As you start your business, you have to have a plan to keep, grow, to keep, and grow customers. Or in other words, build customer relationships. So the best customer is the one who will purchase over and over, but it all starts with the first purchase. The pattern is to get that person the first time and then keep them and then grow that business by using that customer, and get a viral loop going. Each step takes strategy and effort, and in combination with satisfying the customer's needs. It is going to take some amount of advertising to make a customer aware of our presence and our product. It's got to be good enough to entice them to come to the greenhouse to make a purchase. It seems like social media will reach most people in the area. I think everybody participates in social media to a degree or another. But there are other options. You could use signage, of course, and radio and newspaper. We both have those in the local area. So a good product should keep customers, but a little incentive may be needed as well. Like you can get them to be a member of have a member group. And members of this group may receive notices of specials, or get a certain advantage by being a member. So Grow uses much the same strategy as keeping. But you can use the strategy of incentivizing them to get their friends and relatives to join the group. And if the product is satisfactory, our customers will be our best advertising and get it going viral. And they will share by word of mouth, and also they're our best advertisement if they really like our product and point their friends and neighbors toward our product. So another one of our boxes is distribution channels, and this one is quite simple. It's a physical distribution channel because our product is physical. We grow it, we sell it right in the same location, or we can take it to farmers market. So it goes from the plant to our retail counter to the customer. As simple as that. Of course, with the stores, we would also want to deliver that to the stores rather than have them come to our location. And we can provide a nice display that they can use in the stores with our products. And of course, the stores and the restaurants need an easy way to order the product, so we can do it electronically over the internet, or we can do it over the phone, or we can even drop by and take orders. But we would deliver those, and maybe with the restaurants, we would deliver them as they need them, if that makes sense. Okay. So with any business, you have partners, whether they're a formal partner or not. Partners can be a customer. It can be a supplier. It can be a contract worker. It can be an employee. But these are actually partners to the company. You have to have these people to make it a success. So each partner should be looked at as if you want to maintain a lasting relationship. And they need to be evaluated to determine, the risk and the reward for having this partnership. I would say it's probably difficult to select the two most important partners for this presentation, but I would like to feature a couple key partners that can help us get the ball rolling and start production. So the first one is Phillips Soil Products, a company I identified that provides soils to greenhouses. So this would be a very strategic partner alliance, and it's so important to the success of our growing product. The risk with a company like this is that they provide faulty product, jeopardizing the crop. Maybe they have contaminants or disease in their product that isn't compatible with growing tomatoes and cucumbers. Another key partner, get things kicked off, would be the San Juan Economic Development Office. They're a resource for small businesses and for people with business ideas. They connect these people like me with funding sources through grants and financial institutions and other sources. So the risk is with them is that they would funding fails through their resources to complete the project. So, but the reward is finding secure and timely funding to help us get things started. So one thing, as I examine these partners and see their risk and reward, the risk is great enough that you probably ought to have a plan B or a backup partner in case this partnership doesn't actually pull through for you, because it's these very important key steps. And if they failed, you got to quickly adjust. Another one of our boxes on that BMC is key resources. And resources are also critical to the business, just like partnerships are. It's difficult to determine the most important resource. We can determine what kind of resources we need and categorize them into 4 categories: funding or financial, land or natural resources, human resources or labor, and intellectual resources. So I chose 4, like funding. I mean, it's absolutely necessary for the establishment of the operation, whether it's my own funding or, I mean, we got to go out and find funding to really get this going because we don't have enough financial resource of our own to do it. So that's an absolute necessity. Land and improvements. This is also critical for an operation like ours. You have to have a physical location, physical land, and it has to be the right amount of land in the right location with the improvements that we would need, like electricity, a water source, and natural gas supply. All those are critical elements. The other critical element is like the structure and equipment. That's absolutely vital to the operation. It needs to be quality, or you're just wasting your money and your time. And lastly, of course, human resource is very big. We need to have people with the right skills, knowledge, and determination to run all aspects of this business. All right. We've also got to identify key activities to a business. And here's a basic flow diagram for 2 key activities. There will obviously be activities before these, and I could break down these activities into many segments. I chose these activities for this presentation because they are so critical and could cause bottlenecks to get the business up and running. Obviously, they will take a lot of planning and arranging, and they will need constant focus or they could really disrupt what we're trying to accomplish here. Okay, so the first one is build greenhouses in a timely manner and meet the funding requirements. It's the first major step to be able to do this business, and it needs to be done on time. And we all know that things take longer than they expect. You think you could do a project in 2 weeks and it'll take 4. That's natural. So we're gonna have to look at this and try to eliminate bottlenecks, interruptions, and things. The other one is to secure the proper supplies. We know in the last few years, supplies have been hard to get, at least certain supplies. And so this can also be a potential bottleneck. So sourcing these supplies is going to be a very, very important step. Okay. Hello, I'm doing a presentation. Yeah.
There's something going on there.
No. Okay, sorry for that interruption. The next box I would like to address are costs. And here's some basic cost assumptions that I can begin with. The initial costs would be higher, but the land that we have targeted for is already owned by us. So the initial cost or cash outlay won't be as much, but we may want to purchase some neighboring land. So we have plenty of room to grow. In the next slide, I'll show this in more detail. Here's my annual cost assumptions broke down by category. For example, we have variable costs and we have fixed costs. The variable cost would be water, electricity, gas, supplies, delivery, fertilizer, chemicals. If I do a rough estimation, these would add up to be annual expenses of over $16,000. And the fixed costs that we have would be like to service a loan, property tax, property liability insurance, labor, etc. And this will come to a yearly amount of $64,000 or an annual total of $80,000 roughly. Of course, if we're going to make assumptions with costs, we got to make assumptions for revenue because we want our revenue assumptions to be valid and they need to be more than our cost assumptions. And with many businesses, as we know, you may not achieve that right away, but you need to pretty soon, especially for this business. I've laid out 3 revenue streams that correlate with our 3 different customer segments. There are the assumptions are based on costs and pricing for produce in local stores. That's my basis. The prices may seem high, but I didn't want to undersell the product that we think is going to be desired over the competitor's product. Whoops, sorry about that. So in the next slide, I've added our annual revenue projections. All right. So here we can see our projections, and I have outlaid our 3 customer segments and what I expect to earn from those. But a total of these 3 segments would be $96,000 just on tomatoes. And on cucumbers, I also outlaid the projections here, and they would earn about $40,000. So total is $137,000. So from our first assumptions, we can see that revenues should outgain costs. In other words, it could be a profitable business. All right. So as any business goes along, it's good to measure different aspects. And if you're not measuring, you don't know how you're doing. So I have identified 5 metrics to help me know how the business is doing. Besides these, I'm sure there are many more that we could measure, like temperature of our greenhouses or humidity levels. Someone suggested to keep track of product loss, like spoiled product, and keep track of the reasons for this loss. I think that's a great idea. But I've chosen these 5 basic metrics for this presentation. The first one would be production levels. We need to have some targets and we need to measure against those targets. So initially we need to produce a minimum of 2,350 pounds of tomatoes and 1,365 pounds of cucumbers per month. Seems like a lot. So we need to really monitor closely. Sales, we need to keep a close eye on sales so we can make projections and adjustments. This is most important for stores and restaurants, those segments. We want to keep track of variable costs. This is a very important one because variable costs are one of the opportunities where you can possibly improve and become more efficient. For example, water, electricity, and gas are big ones to watch. If we are not able to heat with geothermal, then gas is going to eat into the profits quickly. Soil conditions and plant health. Obviously, we have to keep very close eye on these to keep production levels at an optimum. So we can't have disease creep in or unhealthy plants, or it's going to affect our production drastically. And lastly, market conditions. We'll need to monitor the market conditions so that we can always be proactive rather than reactive in our what we do. So, of course, we know market conditions, like say a new competitor, can really impact your business. All right. Another box is in business environment. And this is, all businesses exist within a market and are influenced in some way by the market forces and environment that are present around you. So this is an example of two forces that there's four forces that I will highlight. Market forces can't be ignored. And so you need to identify them and see how they affect you and then make a plan to react to these types of forces. So the first one is market forces. So you can ask a whole bunch of different questions, and this is one question. What are the most important customer segments? Well, the most important customer segment is the local residents in the area. So the plan for that is to have top quality product available at all times, so customers can get what they want when they want. So industry forces, you can ask this question: what products or services could replace ours? Well, cheaper products from larger scale operations could easily replace ours. Our plan is to have the best quality and variety that won't be offered by competitors. What are the key trends, or what are the key demographic trends? Well, the answer is the trends that I see in the area is that the area is growing slowly, but there is a dramatic increase in traffic through the area. So there's a huge growth in tourism. So the plan is to make product available at stores and restaurants. Take advantage of these travelers. Macroeconomic forces. The question is, what is the state of the capital markets? And well, right now, as you start a business, money is becoming more expensive. And some of the supplies of money are scarcer, which means that capital will be harder to come by and more expensive. The plan is to start with what we can afford and reinvest for growth. Right. Another important thing to do is a SWOT analysis. And I have one here. SWOT is an acronym that stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. It's good to understand what are you good at, what are your strengths, but what are your weaknesses? Where do you need to focus efforts to become stronger? It's good to know what your opportunities are, but it also is important to know what threats stand in your way. So I've made a list of opportunities and threats for our business. For example, our strengths. Let me go to the next slide. I'm going to pick one, maybe the strongest strength on our list and the greatest weakness and the best opportunity and the most severe threat. So the best strength that I think is on this list is we are focused and work with partners. We deploy key resources in the right amount at the right time. I think that this is a good strength and will really be key to starting up this business. However, our weakness is our revenues are unpredictable. We incur we might incur high costs before we collect revenues. No, we will incur high costs before we collect any revenues. So our costs are somewhat unpredictable. We've all seen energy costs go up a lot in the last couple of years, and hopefully they aren't going to continue on that path, but they could. Our greatest opportunity is we can grow to meet more of customers' needs or pivot to something customers want more. For example, I was reading about another greenhouse in another part of the country that was growing tomatoes, and I thought they'd have a good market, and they grew a few other things, and they found out that fresh cut flowers were in great demand and were a great product that they pivoted toward and focused more on that than they did tomatoes. Okay, our most severe threat that we face is a disruption to supplies that we need. And part of that is because we're so remote. We depend on everything through trucks. It takes time, distance, and expense to get to us. So I'm always afraid of a disruption of supplies. All right. There are many more strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats that we could go through. So that's basically covers the 9 boxes of our business model canvas. When we started this and where we are at this point, we've already seen some changes to our business model canvas. For example, our value propositions at the start were, let's say, not too good. As we better understood them, we simplified them. We created a value proposition for each customer segment. Our customer archetypes. At first, we didn't have them identified very well, but since then we've identified and defined each customer segment, which helps us develop a strategy for our business and how to develop a strategy for each segment. Another area that's changed are the key partners. We change that by narrowing down and identifying partners instead of partners in general terms. So we're getting more specific, in other words. And our key resources, similar to the key partners, defined key activities according to the 4 categories of physical, financial, human resource, and intellectual. This has been helpful in segregating the resources and focusing more on the details rather than the generalities again. So these changes come about by starting with assumptions and then testing these assumptions. By doing research, asking questions from customers or potential customers who can provide valuable insight. What we might have in mind might be different than what a customer might have in mind. Undoubtedly, original assumptions will change as we learn more about customers and their needs. And when we learn more about our product and what we can actually make and how to actually get it to the customer. And so all these things pivot and change a little bit, including costs and revenues. So that's kind of some of what I've come up with. And that is basically the end of the presentation. I appreciate your time. It's been fun, and I hope that you like this business idea, and I thank you very much.